Chick tries to gatekeep my nationality. Time to ascend to a form further beyond. For context, I am a 20-something British American male living in a very southern and undereducated part of the US. I have been here for a while now, and generally when I tell people where I am from, I get a little pushback because I don't really have as thick of an accent anymore. Onto the story. I work in a small office. We have a rolling line of temps that come and go. Most of them are barely high school graduates or people with very little in the way of worldly experience. This is important for later. So one day, they bring to usual parade of new hires around and I do my introduction. Hi, I am OP. I am one of the recruiters here at Company X. I am married with 2 dogs and I am originally from the UK. Normally, this is just a throwaway line that I use as an icebreaker and it normally rolls right off, until this one wonderful young woman pipes up, you don't sound British. She, of course, left out the T very purposefully. Me, sorry love, forgot the coat and tails at home. I say as I drink my Twinings. The group kind of laughed it off and I figured it was a pretty open and shut deal. Nope. A couple of days later, word gets around that this chick has been telling a bunch of people that I'm not British and that I'm lying for clout. She said that I don't even sound British and that she is dating a British guy and knows how they act. So, rather than be a mature adult, I do the very British thing of malicious compliance. I need an intern to bring me some tea. Would you mind climbing the apple and pears and pouring me a cup of Rosie Lee? I started wearing 3-piece suits, a pocket watch and a monocle I found at a thrift shop. I went Super Saiyan 3 British obviously. About 3 hours into the first day, my boss wants to know what is up. I tell her and she finds it so hilarious that she assigns that intern to me. For the rest of the day I kept using odd British rhyming phrases and sayings, and she would have to keep asking me to speak normal. I would reply, but I thought you know how us British people act. She quickly realized her error and we've been cordial ever since. Nowadays, I keep my old red passport in my desk drawer just in case someone pulls that stunt again. And for the record, I'm not British, I'm English, and a Scouser at that. Now to the comments. You could talk like John Bishop, she'd need subtitles. I am married with 2 dogs, just wait until she starts in on your canine polygamy. With the Welsh, it's the sheep, with the Scousers. Car exhausts. Well ducking played, old chap. OP replied. Bloody right, mate. Forgive my ignorance, but what's a Scouser? In the early days of tech support being shifted to India, I was working at Dell headquarters in Texas. The guy who sat behind me was from London. Normally, this wasn't very noteworthy. He just had the most interesting accent on our team, but one day he gets this lady on the line who is really upset because she called home support first and her call was sent to a call center in India. After fun with cross-continental and cross-departmental transfers, she's on the phone with Philip, and I hear half of this conversation. Excuse me? Yes, this is Dell headquarters in Austin, TX. Well, yes, you're correct. We're technically in Round Rock, Texas, but most people don't know Round Rock, so I usually say we're in Austin. Yes, I'm sorry. No, I'm being honest. I'm in Round Rock right now. You want to talk to someone who speaks English? I am an English man. He transferred her back to India. Shout out to Round Rock. I grew up in Peeville. But I too tell everyone Austin because nobody knows where it is. Pflugerville, between a rock and a weird place. Being both English and British is the price you pay for having 4 countries in your country. OP replied. You right. But imagine calling a Scot British, you'd have no teeth. LOL can confirm, I'm married to one. A Scouser using Cockney rhyming slang? God, you lot will nick anything, won't you? OP replied. As the bloke with the nice trainers in the above comment, mind you, them is webs aren't they? You should have just spoken Scouse. They don't do dat do they? OP replied. I would have made, but she might have just thought I was having a stroke, and it ain't like there's much in the way of NHS round here in it. LOL, that was a good one. I've had the opposite problem. I'm from a very southern part of the US. After graduating from college, I took my first trip abroad, wanting to save money and also have a good time. I stayed in hostels. Most of the other people were Australian, British, or spoke British English. 3 weeks in, a couple of lads, English, showed up at the hostel. After chatting for a while, they said, "You're from specific part of England, are you?" They refused to believe I was American until I pulled out my passport. After I went home and got back to work, a new co-worker asked me how long I'd been there. Turned out that she meant in the States, not at that job. I checked with some friends after that and they confirmed that I was talking funny. Apparently, I had unknowingly and unintentionally developed a rather convincing regional English accent during the trip that took a week or so to go away. Reminds me of the time I picked up a co-worker from the airport after a European trip. He'd been backpacking, only for 3 weeks, but had picked up a god-awful mix of British, South African, and Australian English from the 3 guys he ended up tooling around Europe with. That accent almost defies description. I knew a Japanese guy who grew up in a Hispanic community. He mentioned that his accent when speaking Japanese confused his relatives back in Japan, and that also includes his cooking style. A Scouser. You sure that's your passport? I keyed. OP replied. I mean the bloke sure bloody looks like me. Of course it doesn't look like me, it's a passport photo. You get this sort of thing all the time. As I am Scottish second-gen army brat raised in Lancashire, you can imagine my accent. Well, you would probably be wrong, it is randomly posh just to confuse people even more. My mum went to an army school in Germany that insisted she speak properly, so she lost her accent and I ended up picking up her accent when I started school. It really does not fit in anywhere, especially as my sister has a strong Scottish accent and my chameleon brother picks up accents everywhere. I have even been told by someone that I cannot be Scottish because I don't have a Scottish accent, and it would be like her claiming she is Irish when only her mum is Irish and she has never lived there. Unlike my Scottish parents and grandparents etc. plus living and spending lots of time there. I could have started spouting Doric all day to mess with her. Heck, that wifey has me traigled with all her bleedin' and a dinny ken what she's havering about. Also, any excuse to say fairy boots in a sentence.